Los Angeles rejects manager's promise to keep legendary former Dodgers player alive. Just like Roberts, Shohei Ohtani's talent is the only hope. The MLB Dodgers game shocked the entire nation. The batting line was silent, only managed a few hits, the starting pitcher collapsed at key points, and the team as a whole became dysfunctional. The team repeatedly struck out when they should have been hitting and repeatedly failed when they should have been holding the opponents back. Completely erased the team's sense of unity that had been evident throughout the season. Manager Dave Roberts was particularly exposed to criticism. The pitcher who had accumulated numerous victories in the past was now seen as outdated, and immediately after the game, the American media unanimously reported on his failure. It was pointed out that the team's overall flow was disrupted by the delay in bringing in relievers and the team's insistence on a fixed batting order, and it was concluded that his tactics were the decisive factor in the team's decision. Furthermore, the humiliating fact that the Dodgers were swept by the Pirates, the bottom team in the National League Central Division, was also reported as a national phenomenon by Takumi. Having lost their pride as a contender, fans began to doubt whether this team could really aim for the championship. The sight of a team with a glorious tradition being thrashed to the point of tears by a team that had just resumed its game had more meaning than just a passing fancy, and it came to be spoken of as a symbolic downfall for the entire season. Although Tunnel's pitching held up well in the early stages of the game despite being overworked, it was always unstable. And as expected in the fifth inning, he lost his rhythm and gave the opposing batters an opening. With each chain of hits, the losses piled up, and it became a nightmare inning in which they gave up 4 to 5 runs in a matter of minutes. Sighs and cheers of success could be heard from the stands, and Snell on the mound seemed completely isolated. Nevertheless, manager Dave Roberts had him substituted, and as a result, the damage was exacerbated. Despite having a ready-made pitcher in the bullpen, the delay in decision-making became a major issue and the momentum of the game quickly shifted in favor of the Pirates. This misjudgment has been heavily criticized as a failure that showed a lack of strategic flexibility. Furthermore, the presence of a rookie conservative rusher exacerbated the tragedy. Due to his lack of experience, he repeatedly threw past balls and made noticeable mistakes in signs with his pitching teammates, and the pitching system was largely at fault. If Hoshi's game calling was unstable, it was only natural that the entire pitching staff would collapse. Compared to modern strategies that involve closely coordinating Hoshi and the bullpen, such as those of the Astros and Rays, the Dodgers' lack of preparation was all too apparent. This inning was not just a run, but a moment that exposed the team's organizational weaknesses. In the post-game interview, Clayton Carr first explained his background to manager Roberts. He said, "I played for the Dodgers my entire career and I respect Deb. He has brought us many victories," and emphasized that he never intended to criticize him one-sidedly. At the same time, however, he clearly pointed out the dangers of the current losing streak with a sense of personal experience as a veteran pitcher. Katsu said that the 5th and 6th innings are the most difficult time for pitchers. The 9th inning begins to falter and the rhythm is easily disrupted. That is why the manager must make decisions at that moment, emphasizing that keeping the starter out for too long risks ruining the game in an instant. These words carried weight that only those with accumulated experience could understand. He also mentioned cooperation with the maintenance team. Is the second for him. Between veterans and young players, there needs to be a rapport that is noticed over time. He said that it is not easy for rookie rushing to immediately get into perfect rhythm with Snell and other investments. He stated that the reason for the continued occurrence of pass balls and poor distribution choices is not the fault of individuals but the team's lack of preparation. Kawasho concluded by saying that this is not the fault of one person. The problem is the lack of strategic preparation on the team as a whole, and while avoiding personal attacks, he left a strong message calling for organizational improvements. Manager Dave Roberts' line strategy was highlighted as a decisive prototype in this game. By continuing to fix Shohei Ohtani as the leadoff hitter, they gave the opposing team some breathing room and lost the opportunity to apply offensive pressure from the first inning. Many of the first innings ended in strikeouts, and as a result, the team's batters spent the early innings with their momentum still on the line, completely stagnating the team's overall offensive rhythm. Even more unfortunate was the substitution of the defensive end in the 8th inning when they were trailing by a wide margin. Manager Roberts benched the rookie rusher to give him a rest and replaced him with the reserve defensive end. However, that decision would later have a notorious result. Although Ohtani could have come up to bat in a situation where the batting lineup showed some stability and showed signs of a counterattack, the substitution caused the order to be shifted. After the game, manager Roberts said that if he had predicted that there would be 8 batters in the 9th inning, he would not have made that substitution, but this statement only served to fuel the criticism. It exposed the team's lack of on-site situational judgment and long-term scenario building, and it was a self-admitted lack of strategy. The Dodgers' failure to read the flow of the game despite their impressive lineup left fans and the media deeply disappointed that their team's failure to do so stole the show. The moment Orel Hershiser spoke from the commentary booth during the broadcast, his words rang out as sharp as a rhetoric. The hero who led the team to a World Series victory in 1988, leaving behind a legendary 59 consecutive scoreless innings, did not bring up past glory but instead made a cold, ironclad assessment of the modern Dodgers. He began by criticizing manager Roberts' failure to keep Shohei Ohtani in the leadoff spot. He knew what the opponent was going to do. Either they didn't challenge Ohtani in his first at-bat or they tried to strike him out with a high pitch, but either way, they didn't put any pressure on him. He pointed out that this stifled the team's offensive momentum, and he criticized the rigid lineup for giving the opponents room to maneuver from the first inning. He also didn't overlook the decision to replace Hoshi in the 8th inning. It was understandable that he would take out rushing when they were down 5-0. However, because of that, Shohei didn't get a chance to bat when the miraculous comeback occurred in the 9th inning. He said that this was a case of poor judgment of the loss, and he asserted that it was ultimately a decision he made to throw away the possibility of a comeback. Hershiser then went on to draw a comparison to his own playing days, saying that in 1988, we weren't a star-studded team. However, we won by changing and adapting our strategies to each game. He said that the current Dodgers, despite having a luxurious lineup, have completely lost their flexibility, highlighting the difference in attitude between the past and the present. Finally, he said this: "I'm a guy who played in 1988. But ironically, I seem to be better able to adapt to modern baseball than the manager I am now. There's no greater shame." Quote. These words struck a chord with viewers, and it was a moment when everyone realized the seriousness of the crisis the Dodgers were facing. After the game, manager Dave Roberts strongly opposed the initially harsh criticism. He told reporters, "We've racked up a lot of wins with the way we've been doing things up until now." Roberts said it was premature to dismiss everything after just a few games, and he vehemently denied the recent suggestion that his approach was outdated. However, Roberts' attitude changed drastically after the team CEO gave him a stern warning that if things continued as they were, he could be banned. He remained calm and said there was no excuse for being swept by a team that had resumed play. He said it was understandable that fans would be disappointed, and he felt the same way, carefully choosing his words. He went on to say that he doesn't think our baseball philosophy is completely outdated, but he understands that a more flexible and diverse approach is needed when investing in an ace like Skins, and he partially acknowledged the limitations of his strategy. Roberts also said that he had had many discussions with the players in the locker room. He said he couldn't reveal the details, but that he would definitely show changes in the next game, and promised to revise his tactics in the near future. In the end, there was only one option: win. He vowed to prove it in the next game, and showed his determination. However, his words were quickly taken by fans and the media as a tired promise. Despite manager Roberts' strong promise that they would definitely win next time, neither the American media nor the fans paid any attention to his words. Newspaper headlines were filled with empty promises and gimmicks, and TV debates were filled with credulous comments that his words were the same as in the past and carried no weight.